let's get started. All right. Well, this is our class, Computational Statistics with R Stats 102A. Happy New Year. Happy 2024. It's good to see you guys. Let's talk a little bit about the syllabus. So my name is Miles Chen. I'll be your teacher for the quarter. I'm looking forward to a good quarter with you guys. Some of you have taken classes with me before. I recognize from Stats 21 or Stats 15. I also teach, I teach most of the 102 series, so Stats 102A, I guess I teach it all, but sometimes in some years I don't get it. So 102B and 102C, and then sometimes also Stats 101C. So, so chances are I might see some of you again. You guys, I give you permission to call me Miles by my first name, but you can also call me Professor Chen or Dr. Chen, whatever you are comfortable with. I don't like being called just by my last name only, but yeah. Okay. So I've posted, I think I published the course and the syllabus is up, and did you guys have a chance to take a look at that? Okay, great. This is our grade breakdown. We'll talk about, I guess, lecture view quizzes and homework and whatnot. I go with straight scale grading. So I don't curve. I guess there's a couple approaches as far as how grading goes. So, some professors, they make a tough exam that kind of covers everything they believe a student should know. And the average might be like a 55, but then they curve accordingly so that a certain percentage gets an A and a B. I take a different approach, and I try, when I write an exam, my aim is to get a median in the 80s and not to curve. So that's my goal. Now, if I write an exam and something goes wrong, where say the average of the exam is like a 70 or something like that, lower than I expected, then I might do an adjustment where I just add points across the board. So let's say the median is a 70, I might just add 10 points across the board so that the median comes up to an 80. So that means if you scored 100%, you would go up to 110, and if you scored a 10%, you would go up to a 20%. Okay, so I would just add kind of 10 points across the board so that everything just shifts up so that the median is my ideal is somewhere between 80 and 85, and if I do a bad job, I'll try to correct there. But that's that. Okay. I don't take traditional attendance. That said, it's really good to see you guys here, and I hope to see you in future classes. And but I do record the lectures. I will post the video recordings of the lecture, and you can kind of keep up with all the material by watching the videos, and you can also get points for watching or attending lecture or watching the lecture by responding to lecture view quizzes. So the way a lecture view quiz works is if you go to Canvas, or what do we call this? Brew and Learn, Canvas. Under week 1, we have the lecture viewing quiz, and when you try to take the quiz, it looks like this. There's just 3 questions, and it just says A, B, C, D. Okay. There's no kind of context to the questions, and the only way you'll get the answers is by either attending lecture or watching the video. And so, for example, this first question, the answer is the letter D, D as in dog, and you will check that. Okay. So if you have a piece of paper, jot this down or take notes somewhere on your computer or phone or whatever. Question 1 is the answer D, and I will give you the answers to questions 2 and 3. Okay, and you will get points for the lecture view quiz, right? And so that's 15% of your grade, which I think is very generous, and it's just kind of like free points just for kind of attending class or watching the video, which you should be doing. Now, again, you can keep up and not lose any points just by watching videos. But I do appreciate having you physically here in this classroom. And especially if you're thinking of grad school and asking for a letter of recommendation, it's helpful to know, to actually recognize and know who you are. And so I want to ask you to come to class, and then especially sit in these kind of first maybe 3 rows or so. All right, if you do come to class, because this first, I guess, quadrant of student faces are the ones I'm going to recognize kind of the most. That area. I mean, if you're in that back row, it's kind of like I can see that a person exists, but I'm going to have a hard time kind of seeing your face or recognizing you. So, but anyway, that's that. Regarding the lecture view quizzes, they are due before the next lecture begins. So today's quiz will close Wednesday at like 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. or something like that. So make sure you complete the quiz. And that's just kind of because, every lecture material builds off of the previous material. So so it's important that you kind of watch this stuff before you go to the next lecture there, okay? Please make sure you do it within the time frame, and make sure you don't accidentally click the wrong answer. So make sure you do respond to the lecture view quiz. Make sure you do click the responses correctly. Don't email me and say, oh, I forgot to take the quiz, or I entered the wrong answer. Can I go back and enter the right answer, or something like that? Okay, also treat it like a quiz. So it would be, it's cheating if you share your answers to the quiz, okay? So don't do that. You're not doing your classmates any, actual favors there, okay? Homework, we have homework assignments, and make sure you turn them in, and that counts for that, okay? Regarding office hours are my preferred method of kind of communication and dealing with issues and handling stuff. So so come to office hours, especially if you have some kind of urgent matter that needs to be taken care of. I have office hours 5 times a week, okay, which isn't as much as Professor Christo, but I think is a lot of office hours, okay? So so I got Mondays at 10:30, Tuesdays at 4, Wednesdays at 10:30, and Thursdays at 5. Also Saturdays at 10 a.m. So come to office hours. They're online and in Zoom. In person and over Zoom, and I can kind of handle your issues that way. I kind of hate to say this, but it is true. I am bad at email. Okay, I'm bad at kind of most written kind of communication. So I'm the kind of person that you send me a text message and I just kind of leave you on read for days, or maybe not even respond to you. So especially if there's some kind of issue that requires me to go into the grade book or something like that, come to office hours, okay? If you send me an email, it's it might take several days to get a response there, okay? But yeah, if you come to office hours, I'm not going to ignore you, all right? You should have been invited to the Campus Wire discussion forum, okay? And post your questions there, respond to your classmates' questions, and it does count as part of your final grade, participation on Campus Wire. And so, if a classmate responds to your question, upvote their answers, okay? It doesn't cost you anything to upvote someone's answer. If you read someone's answer and that was helpful for you, make sure you upvote them, okay? Again, when a student receives an upvote, it counts towards their participation score, and again, it doesn't cost you anything to do that, okay? That's Campus Wire. Some of you have emailed me regarding issues logging into Campus Wire. And chances are that's because you're trying to log in with the wrong email address. So I invited whatever email is listed on MyUCLA, okay? So on MyUCLA, you might be Joe Bruin at ucla.edu, okay? But perhaps the email that you check is joebruin@g.ucla.edu. I don't know, okay? If you try to accept the invite that was sent to @ucla.edu and you try to accept it using @g.ucla.edu or something like that, CampusWire sees that as two entirely different people and will say, you haven't been added to this class, okay? So just log out of CampusWire and log back in using the email address that was invited. So you might have to just double check, was this sent to @UCLA or @g.ucla, or was it sent to my personal @Gmail or Hotmail or Outlook or whatever email address you're using? Just double check the email, and that should solve any kind of login issues with CampusWire. Okay. All right. I don't know. Any questions about kind of how that kind of stuff is going to work? All right. So let's talk about this class. This is Stats 102A, Computational Statistics with R, and I say this class is about kind of giving you foundations for data science. And I don't know, do you guys have a good answer for what is data science? I feel like this is a common experience, is that, you go home for the holidays, maybe your grandparents are there, and they ask, how's college going? What are you studying? And then you tell them, oh, my major is statistics and data science, or data theory or something, right? And then they go, oh, you're so smart, which is true. But also somebody might ask, oh, what's data science, or what is that about? And do you have a good answer? I'm just curious, what's your answer for what is data science? Yeah.
I kind of think it's a science of extract some pattern or information, make some prediction
Okay.
about the future,
Yeah.
or estimate about the current situation.
Yeah, getting information out of our data. I think that's a good answer. We're kind of living in this age where we have so much data. Data is just generated just from like having a phone, you being here, right? Like all of your phones are sending location data to some server so that I don't know, somebody, who knows, right? Like at least these internet providers know exactly where you are, unless you have all of that kind of turned off. How do we get information out of data? How do we make sense out of all of this data? And in order to do that, we live in this time where we have so much data that kind of the traditional tools of math and statistics aren't enough for us to kind of handle the data. So, statistics was kind of founded and created at a time where data was very expensive. In terms of it would be like agricultural data. You'd have agricultural data, and they wanted to know what's the best combination of, I'm making stuff up, but it'd be like how much water, how much fertilizer, how much sunlight, how much this and that. What's the best combination to improve your crop yield and things like that. And so to collect 1 point of data, that required an entire year of growing and tilling and I don't know, whatever goes into farming and harvesting, right? And you would have the certain combination, you had to keep that up for an entire whatever season of growth, and you would get 1 point of data. And so maybe you would have 25 different combinations that you had to kind of keep track of and maintain for an entire year, and you'd get your harvest and you'd have 25 points of data. And so statistics was kind of formed during that time where it was how do we get the most information? It was still the idea of getting information out of data, but how do we get the most information out of data if we're only going to have 25 points of data, okay? And so some of you are going to take Stats 101B, Design of Experiments in ANOVA, and that's kind of comes from that time where it was really important to set up your experiment and the combination of settings so that you could get the most information out of the few data points that you have, right? So that's kind of the origins of statistics, and that was very important, and that's still very important in, say, like medical cases and medical studies, because getting like a medical trial on one patient might cost you like thousands of dollars, because you have to pay the doctors and the nurses and the medical staff to like administer, medications and drugs, and you follow this patient for like 9 months or something, and so it's like thousands of dollars just to get this one point of data, right? And so depending on how much funding you have, you might be lucky to get 75 points of data. And is that going to be enough for you to do some kind of conclusive study and say this medication is effective or not? So design of experiments is still very important, especially in medical context. But we're also, now with the computer age, we're in this time where we have so much data, right? Like your phone is just generating so much data, right? Every single little click that you do on a website is being tracked and logged. And, you're scrolling on, I don't know, you're just like watching videos on Instagram and stories are going by, and they keep track. How long did you look at the thing before you swiped or tapped to the next video? And they say this engaged the user for 4.75 seconds. This one engaged the user for, 15 seconds. This one was like swiped away on immediately, and things like that. All of that data is being tracked somewhere. And so we have like gigabytes, hundreds and thousands, millions of rows of data. And, the tools that were designed for handling 25 points of data is just not going to cut it anymore for when we have millions of rows of data, right? And so we've developed a whole kind of new set of tools, and they all involve using the computer and coding in order to interact with these kinds of things. So data science is kind of this intersection between our ability to interact and code with the computer to interact with these big data sets. Also, we still need that foundational math and stats knowledge in terms of like extracting information out of the data, okay? And then there's also domain expertise. Domain expertise, or subject matter expertise, is that, these ideas of data science and whatnot, the coding skills and your math and stats knowledge can be applied to all kinds of different contexts. And the stats and data science major will cover kind of these coding skills on this Venn diagram. It shows up as hacking skills. And we'll try to give you these two circles, the red and the green circles, hacking skills or math, coding skills along with math and stats knowledge. We can't give you the subject matter or substantive expertise. We can't give you the subject matter expertise just because there's too many subjects. So, some of you want to do sports analytics, okay? Obviously, if you want to do like baseball statistics, you need to be familiar with the game of baseball, right? If you haven't watched baseball, if you can't explain, what's the difference between on base percentage and on OPS and WAR and things like that, you're not going to be able to look at the data and draw insight from it. Okay, if you want to do statistics and data science in like medicine, okay, you need to have some kind of baseline knowledge of medicine. You probably need to take some biology courses and anatomy courses and things related to to medicine. If you want to do it in terms of like in financial markets, you need to have understanding of like what all of these financial things are. And there's just too many subjects. We can't give that to you as the stats and data science department or major or data theory majors. And so that's up to you to go out and become an expert on whatever subject it is that you want to learn. And so if you're when it comes to applying for jobs, whatever sector your company that you're applying to is in, learn a little bit, right? Learn a little bit about that thing so you can say like, oh yeah, I'm familiar with, whatever context that's in, okay? But yeah, kind of the overlap between these things, machine learning and that, applied to a subject can be data science and things like that. So this class, Stats 102A, is kind of an introduction to this field of computational statistics and data science. The aim is to advance your coding skills in R and apply those skills to some statistics applications. So all of you have taken Stats 20, and you have some baseline coding experience with R. And in this class, my hope is to kind of push you and stretch you a little bit further and help you develop your coding skills. There's always kind of this question, like, why are we using R and not Python? And don't get me wrong, I love Python, okay? I teach Stats 21, the course in Python. Some of you have taken that. And so I'm a big proponent of Python. And I am pushing to have more Python in the department and the major. And I'm actually, after this class, I'm going to go to a curriculum committee meeting, and I'm going to try to promote Python and say we need to have more Python and I want to make it a requirement and things like that. But these things, there's a lot of bureaucracy, and it takes like years for these changes to happen. So it's like you propose a change, and then different kind of places have to kind of sign off and say, okay, this we allow for the change and the requirements for graduation and things like that. So anyway, I'm a big proponent of Python. I think Python is great, but I also love R, and I don't think it's a waste of time for you to kind of learn and develop R. So I would say Python is a lot more popular in industry. R is still very popular in academia. But I would say a lot of the skills that you will learn in this class that apply to R will translate very kind of easily over to Python. So in this class, we'll cover dplyr and kind of these data manipulation things with group bys and things like that. And those translate very well over to Python and pandas. A lot of these other things, regular expressions are kind of universal. And a lot of the kind of problem solving things of just like taking a large concept and breaking it down into smaller pieces, that's going to be universal in any kind of programming language. And as far as like how similar are different coding languages, I would say there's quite a bit of similarity between R and Python. They're both kind of dynamically typed and things like that. So I don't think the time that we spend developing your coding abilities in R are wasted at all. I think they're still going to be very useful skills, and they do translate well to other languages as well. Okay. Thematically, this class can be kind of split into two parts. I would say the first half will focus more on advanced programming and coding skills, and we'll kind of give you a lot of kind of coding assignments and develop that. And then the second part will kind of focus a lot on kind of computational statistics and different methods, including some numeric methods. And so there's going to be a couple of weeks where we do things like root finding and numeric optimization. And these are important concepts. If some of you have taken or will take Math 151A, which is all entirely about numeric methods, but a lot of you also will never take Math 151A. And so these couple weeks here are kind of like the light essentials of that course, just boiled down to like 2 weeks of content covering kind of numeric methods there. So there's kind of a lot of overlap there. Obviously, if you take 151A, you're going to have a much more kind of developed version, things that go into theory and kind of convergence and O notation, big O notation, and things like that regarding those numeric methods. And this will just kind of cover the essentials of those topics there. Okay, and so this is kind of a listing of some of the different topics that we'll cover. This is at least my tentative plan, and we'll talk about that. Here, let me give you your second view quiz answer. The second view quiz answer is the letter B. B as in bear. B is your second view quiz answer. All right. One thing, and I want to emphasize this, is that you will need to do a lot of learning outside of class. Okay, so So sometimes students complain like, oh, I had to teach myself so much. The professor hardly taught us anything. And there is some truth to that, okay? But I think that's how most learning happens anyway, okay? We meet 3 times a week for 50 minutes. I'm able to present 150 minutes of content each week to you guys, which is what, 2.5 hours? It's not very much, okay? And this learning method of me just having a slide up here, talking, and you sitting there is very passive. And it's not the best way for you to kind of learn and develop stuff, okay? So I like to think of that as like, learning a sport, okay? You don't learn how to play basketball by just sitting and watching people play, okay? You have to actually like practice. You actually have to physically hold the ball and dribble it and pass it and shoot it. And you have to actually do these things yourself for you to develop the skills, okay? You can't just sit and watch and expect to learn. And similarly, I can show you a bunch of stuff, but these are skills that you're gonna have to kind of develop and learn yourself. Just reading and writing code. You gotta do that yourself, okay? Debugging your own code, which involves kind of this skill that, an ability to kind of observe every single individual character, because when it comes to coding, every individual character is important, which is very different from just regular writing, right? Regular writing, even if there's misspellings and you might notice misspellings, you can read it and understand it, okay? The computer can't handle misspellings, okay? It's different. So every single individual character matters, and that's something that you have to kind of develop. The ability to notice individual characters, and that's going to be important for debugging. Problem solving, the idea of taking a big problem and breaking it down, trying to think of solutions with the tools that you have available. That's something you've got to kind of develop. And also reading documentation, because again, there's only so much I can present to you within our time in the class, and the rest, you're gonna have to read, like, there's going to be a new function that you've never used before that no one's ever presented to you, and you have to be able to read the documentation and learn how to understand how it works and learn how to apply it to those things, okay? The homework assignments are designed to be a challenge and designed to be kind of these structured exercises that will force you to do all of these things and help you develop these things, okay? So that's kind of the approach I want you to take with the homework, is that see the homework as an opportunity for you to practice in developing these things, and not just, don't just see it as a thing where it's just you have to get the job done, okay? And so I encourage you to start your homework early. And take the time, work on it multiple times throughout the week, rather than just saving it till 2 days before it's due and starting it and trying to just power through it in a couple of sessions there. Okay, just work through it. At UCLA, to graduate, you have to take a course that meets the Writing 2 requirement, right? And in that course, it's not like a writing class, but it'll be like a history class or some other kind of some kind of subject class. But to fulfill the Writing 2 requirement, there's probably a lot of writing. You probably have to write an essay almost every single week or something like that. And I want to think of this, I like to think of this, there's no such thing as a Coding 2 class, but I like to think of it as like the coding equivalent of that. If you're going to call yourself a graduate in statistics and data science, like, you need to be able to turn your ideas and be able to express them in code, right? You need to be able to express your ideas in writing effectively, and you need to be able to express your ideas in code effectively as well. And so, the homework, there's a lot of coding involved, and that's to kind of help you develop your coding abilities, okay? I have to talk a little bit about academic integrity and plagiarism. And the truth is that, a lot of these homework assignments, I'm proud of the homework assignments that I've written and created. I like to think they are good challenges and exercises for you to do. And I ask students not to share their solutions or post their solutions, but if you do enough kind of searching, you can probably find answers to a lot of these things out there, all right? So a lot of the solutions you can find. And now we have these AI tools that you can just go online and type in the problem and say, hey, write the code for me. And the AI is able to write code that works. And it's really impressive. But that's not the point of the homework, okay? I don't need for you to get the homework done. I give you the homework as part of the class because I think it's a way for you to develop your skill, okay? It's not like I have clients over here waiting on your homework to be finished and I say, hey, I need this homework done, okay? The goal is not to accomplish the task. The goal is for you to work through the homework and learn and develop skills by doing the homework, okay? I compare this to, say, going to the gym, all right? If you go to the gym, and by the way, today is week 1. It's going to be like the busiest time at Wooden Center right now, right? If you go there at like 6 p.m. today, you're going to have like a 30-minute wait for each treadmill or something. But anyway, that's great. You should still go to the gym even if it's busy, okay? But if you lift weights at the gym, the goal of lifting weights isn't that the weights get lifted up off the ground, okay? The goal is that you lift the weights yourself, and by lifting the weights yourself, you will gain strength, okay? And when you lift weights, when you pick weights to lift, you want to pick weights that are a challenge for you, okay? And by lifting weights that require you to work hard, you will wear yourself out, you will get tired, and then when you go to sleep and your body repairs itself, you'll come back stronger, right? If you only lift weights that are super easy for you, you're not going to get stronger, right? And if you only do academic challenges or academic things that present no challenge to you whatsoever, you're not going to be, your brain's not going to be developing, right? When you have a homework assignment or a problem that's difficult and you have to, your brain has to work hard and it's tiring and it's exhausting to kind of think through all of that stuff, later you go to sleep and your brain is going to try to form new connections so it doesn't have to work so hard in the future. And so, as you're learning stuff and things are challenging to you, you work through it and then you sleep and later on it clicks. That's because your brain has formed new kind of neural connections and pathways in your brain, and that means you've gotten better at that task and that mental skill there, okay? And that's how you become better at coding. You work through tough coding exercises, and your brain forms new connections, and you get stronger, okay? Plagiarism, or sending the problem to the AI and saying, hey, solve this for me, would be like going to the gym, saying, oh man, these weights are heavy. Excuse me, you look strong. Can you lift the weights for me, right? And then they lift the weights off the ground and you go, great, we had a great workout today. I got the weights got lifted up off the ground. What a great day, okay? That defeats the entire point of going to the gym, right? Like, why would you go to the gym if you're gonna have someone lift the weights for you, right? Why bother taking this class if you're gonna just have someone else do the learning for you, or basically get the tasks done? These tasks are here so that you struggle through them and you learn, okay? That struggle is part of the important process, right? Feeling the heavy weights, that's part of the process. That's important, okay? So, copying someone else's code, copying the AI's code, that defeats the point, okay? When students do plagiarize or cheat in this way, it's not because, I don't think it's because students are evil and lazy or something like that, okay? I think it's because students get the goals of the course mixed up. They get the the goal of the course is you're learning, but they get it mixed up and they think getting the homework done is the goal, okay? And if you think the homework is the goal, getting the task done is the goal, then yes, it's going to make sense to copy code or ask the AI to solve it, okay? If you think the goal is the weights get lifted up off the ground, it's going to make sense to have somebody lift the weights up, right? But the goal isn't that the weights get lifted up or the homework is just finished. The goal is you're learning that process there. Later, when you're working for a company and the task is we just need the task done, go ahead, use all the tools at your disposal, okay? Use AI, go ask for help, whatever it takes to get the task done. That's going to be what's important. Like the company doesn't care about your learning itself, right? They just need the tasks done, okay? And similarly, if you're like moving out of your apartment and you need the couch lifted and hauled away, go ahead, hire somebody to do that for you, okay? It's not like we care about you lifting the couch yourself and you getting stronger. That's not the task, right? So go ahead, hire somebody to move the couch. When you're working for a company and you just need the task done, go ahead, use whatever tools are at your disposal. But in this class, the goal isn't your getting the job done, okay? The goal is your learning. So treat it that way, okay? And so this is kind of this optimistic, idealistic appeal for you not to cheat and not to plagiarize. I recognize I might be a little bit naive in thinking that we're going to get through the entire course without a single incident of plagiarism or cheating, but I am at heart an optimist. So I like to think that, okay, if I do catch you kind of cheating or plagiarizing, I will escalate it, and it's not a fun process for anybody involved. So please save me from that heartache and pain, and yourself from that heartache and pain, and please just kind of work through it yourself and challenge yourself there. Okay, so please put forth a good faith effort. Don't seek out solutions or things like that. And if you're not able to complete the homework to 100%, turn in what you have, and that's okay. You won't get 100% on the homework because you didn't complete it to 100%. But I want you to feel okay with that and say, hey, I did my best effort. This represents my best efforts, and I will take the score that it gets. Okay. I have a few slides regarding the collaboration policy, and basically on CampusWire, ask each other questions, but don't post code, right? So there's a lot of ways you can answer a question without actually using code, right? So how did you approach this problem? You could say, I created a for loop, and within each iteration, I did this and I did that without actually posting code. Please don't ask somebody to debug your code for you. Work on it yourself. You can come to office hours and ask me to help you. You can also go to the TA to help you debug the code, but please don't ask your fellow students to do the debugging for you, okay? As far as code that's not related to homework, obviously in my lecture slides, I'm going to be posting code. Feel free to post that code and say, hey, what's happening on this slide? Why is this the output? I don't quite understand what's going on. That's, you can do that, okay? All right, I want to give a final spiel. I give this spiel every single class I teach. So if you've taken classes with me in the past, you're going to hear it again. And if you take classes with me in the future, you'll hear it again. But for some of you, this might be the only class you have with me, and I want to give this spiel. This is a little bit about grades in life, and so number one, I like to say your grades do not define you, and I truly believe that, right? You are here at UCLA. UCLA is an elite university. Admissions rate is what, less than 10% now for freshmen. So it's really tough to get in. Basically, only top level students get in. A lot of you were probably valedictorian at your high school or something like that, okay? And you had good grades. You had good grades in high school, or you went to community college and you had really good grades there, and you transferred over here. And a lot of your time and energy today is spent on your classwork, spent on working on getting good grades. And so getting good grades feels very important. and I get that, okay? But again, it needs to be said, your grades do not define you, right? It feels good to get good grades. Grades do play a role in, say, grad school admissions. But, once you leave the academic circles, okay, nobody cares about your grades, okay? You're not, at the workplace, they're not going to ask you. Like, once you get hired, okay, and rarely is your hiring going to be based on your GPA, okay? You can include in your resume, but their decision as far as hiring you or not hiring you is rarely going to be decided by your GPA, okay? And once you're hired, your promotions and stuff is not going to matter at all. Your grades aren't going to matter there, okay? And no one's going to look back in life and say, oh, the thing I regret most in life is that I got a B plus instead of an A minus, okay? Your grades don't define you there, okay? I also like to talk about work-life balance, because this is something that maybe you're struggling with now, and it could be something that you struggle with the rest of your life, or at least the issue of things demanding your time and attention. That's going to be something you face for the rest of your life, okay? And I like to just broadly split things that require time and attention in life into these three broad categories. One being work, that's going to include actual jobs or internships, but also school and academics I classify under work. Any other kind of professional obligations go there. You also have relationships with your family, friends, if you have a romantic partner, any other social obligations. And so, maybe certain clubs and organizations fall under both work and relationships, or maybe it falls more under one or the other. And also taking care of yourself. That includes taking care of your physical health, mental health, spiritual health. Those are all, it's important to take care of your health, right? Eating well, sleeping, exercising. For mental health, it's important that you get good sleep, but also that you have fun in life, right? You play and you have entertainment, have good kind of relationships, or something that, well, I guess relationships is there, but, and then your spiritual health, if you're spiritual or religious, right? And so all of these things require our time and attention, and you know what? There's only 24 hours in a day, and it's not going to be possible to give 100% to every single one of these categories, okay? And so I believe work-life balance is achieved by making conscious decisions, looking at what requires our time and attention, what's demanding that, and choosing what's important to us, what's less important, and devoting our time and energy accordingly, okay? And in most cases, the more you put in, the more you're going to get out. And when you put less time and energy into something, that part of your life is going to kind of not flourish or wither or things like that. And if you can kind of just be satisfied and content with the natural consequences of your choices, I think you can feel satisfied in life, okay? So I have just a couple silly examples here. But, let's say you have a group of friends, and then one day you become involved with a romantic partner, right? And so now you are spending a lot of time with this romantic partner, and you're not spending as much time with your initial group of friends. So the natural thing that's going to happen is you're not going to be as close as you used to be with your original group of friends, and you will get closer to your romantic partner. And that might come to kind of this point where, perhaps your circle of friends goes out and didn't invite you to some kind of outing. And it might feel hostile. You feel like, oh man, they're trying to exact revenge for me having a romantic partner or something like that. That's probably not the case, okay? It's probably just you're not as close as you used to be. And so they went out and they did something without you, okay? But I want you to feel okay with that. Or if you have made the conscious decision to spend less time with these friends and more time with your romantic partner, then be okay with that, right? Now you have, you're closer to your romantic partner, and that's just kind of how that goes, all right? Or vice versa, right? If you spend less time with your romantic partner and more time with your friends, your relationship with your romantic partner might not flourish, or they might break up with you or something, and they say, hey, you spend too much time on these other things. I don't feel like I'm important to you in your life. And that's just the consequences of your choices and your actions, okay? I recognize life is more complicated than that, but just overall, that's kind of the general theme of things, okay? Similarly at work, okay? You might meet some people when you start working. There might be people who live almost entirely in their office, right? They spend a ton of time at work. They do that. They don't have much going on outside of work, and so they're given tasks. They do those things beyond. They do even more stuff than what was asked of them, and so versus there might be other people who does everything that's asked of them, but then as soon as they're done, they leave the office. They go and they have friends and family and a life outside of that. But from the company's perspective, who should be rewarded? The one who does even more than what's asked, or the one who does everything asked but then leaves? Probably from the company's perspective, it's going to be the one who does even more. Okay, and that's just how that goes. And so, if climbing the ranks within the company is more important, spend your time accordingly. Okay, if having a life outside of work is more important, spend your time accordingly. But also accept the natural consequences of what happens when you don't spend as much time on something, okay? And if you can kind of be satisfied and accept just what happens when you don't spend as much time, I think you can be happy and have work-life balance, okay? Earlier I said I'm bad at email, okay? That's because I've made a conscious choice, right? If you approached me, I don't know, a decade ago, early on in my career, I've spent a lot of time responding to student emails, okay? And it consumed so much of my time. And I just said, you know what, this is not making me happy. I want to do things outside of that. I have family, children, and I want to make sure I spend time there. And so I've chosen to spend more time over there, less time on emails. And so I'm bad at responding to emails, and sometimes students complain about that. But I'm okay. I'm okay with that decision that I've made about deprioritizing email, okay? And the consequences of that as well. So that's it. When it comes to yourself, I want you to take care of yourself. Self-care is important. It's important to take care of your physical health and your mental health. And because if you don't, you'll be operating at less than 100% efficiency. And when I say something like this, when I tell you that your physical health and your mental health is important, what I'm trying to tell you is that sometimes that means making a decision where some other aspect of your life is going to suffer so that you can prioritize your own physical and mental health, okay? And so that might mean there comes a time where you say, you know what, getting rest is more important than finishing my homework to 100%. Or doing this fun activity for myself is more important than finishing my homework to 100%, okay? And I want you to feel okay with decisions like that, right? And so what that means is you're gonna, if you only finish half the homework and you say, but you know what, I need to get sleep, that's important to me, you turn in half of your homework, you're only gonna get half of the points at best, right? But I want you to be okay with that decision and say, you know what, I am okay with my grade suffering a little bit because I made this conscious choice to myself that I'm gonna prioritize my rest and my physical health, okay? Sometimes it means other aspects like relationships. Maybe you need to be a good friend to somebody. You might have a friend who lives a few hours away, goes to another university, and they have a really rough day, and they just need somebody to be there for them. And so that might mean you need to spend a couple hours driving over there, spending time with your friend, and you don't have time to finish your homework, okay? And so your homework grade suffers there, right? But I want you to say, hey, you know what? That was important. In that moment, I wanted to be a good friend, and that was important. And to me, my friendship and my friend was more important than my homework grade. Okay, and these are kinds of the choices that you have to make. Maybe maybe during college, maybe, I mean, certainly things like that will happen later in life where, something's going to demand your attention at work, something's going to demand your attention at home, and you have to make a choice, okay? And when you make a choice, one or the other is going to suffer a little bit, but be okay with that. Be okay with that, okay? Let me give you your last view quiz answer, and I know I'm going over time here. Last view quiz answer is the letter C. C as in cat. C as in cat. And the last thing I want to say is beware of what I call fruitless entertainment. So entertainment, fun activities, I think this is very important for your own kind of mental health. It's really important. I'm all for like having fun, watching TV, playing games, things like that. But there's also kind of a set of activities that take a lot of our time, but don't improve us, don't make us feel any better, okay? Some of these things are just designed to be addictive. There's certain social media apps, certain kind of casual games, certain activities, maybe even hanging out with certain people where, especially, some of these apps, like you start watching some videos at 10 p.m. and it's just video after video after video, and before you know it, it's 2 a.m. and you go, oh man, what did I do? You don't feel any better about yourself, and you've just kind of lost a bunch of time, right? There's only 24 hours in a day, and it'd be really sad if multiple hours get eaten up by something that doesn't really improve yourself, improve your relationships, or improve your kind of work or social things. So just be mindful of those things. I'm not saying you have to cut those things out entirely, but just be aware of where your time is going. Again, we have only 24 hours in a day, and we need to choose how we're going to spend those things. Okay, thanks for hearing me out. I'm looking forward to a great quarter with you all. Make sure you respond to the view quiz, answer those 3 questions, and we will see you on Wednesday. Looking forward to a good quarter. Have a great rest of your day.